Good evening. The Hoover Board of Education meeting is now called to order. If you choose, please join me in a moment of silent prayer. Amen. You will please stand and join us for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Goodwin, will you please call the roll?
Stephen Presley.
Here.
Earl Hoover.
Here.
Craig Kelly.
Here.
Jill Gaines-Beach.
Here.
Deanna Baumann. Here.
Thank you. We have established a quorum. Board members, you have in front of you the agenda for tonight's board meeting. Do I have a motion to adopt this agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? The agenda is approved. We'll now have our time of recognition. Dr. Murphy and then Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Presley. I'd like to take privilege to acknowledge two of our board members this evening. We have certificates of achievement from the Alabama Association of School Boards for two members. One is Jill Gaines-Beach, who is completed level 1. And so congratulations, Ms. Beach, on level 1 AASB. Craig Kelly for completion of level 3 with Alabama Association of School Boards. And I'd like to just take a moment to acknowledge Dana Clement, who is, Dana, where are you? I saw you somewhere hiding in the far corner. Dana is our UNISERV director, has brought some good ideas to me, to us, to take a look at in our policy. And so I just wanted to acknowledge Dana for working so closely with us, has brought some ideas to me that board members I'll be sharing with you later at a more appropriate time as we talk about policy again. Real advocate for our schools, for our children, for our teachers. So thank you, Dana.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to call former Board of Education member, Mr. Derek Murphy, to the front, and Councilman-elect. We wanted to recognize him, of course, for his efforts in mobilizing the community and all of our schools and a lot of our dads, I'd say thousands of our dads, when it comes to the Hoover City Dad Brigade, which this year was in its second year. How many dads total would you say we have?
What I can count for, about 503.
So yeah, we'll take everyone we get. So this is the back to school thing that occurs at most of the elementary, or all the elementary campuses. And I believe this year we extended it to the middle schools and high schools to some extent. So we've got some dad leaders here in the house. It's a big positive thing. The parents turn out. It starts at 6:30 in the morning at the Home Depot at Galleria Circle. So it really takes some true commitment to be a part of this and get engaged, and we appreciate the media coverage that we get out of this. So let's give a round of applause to Mr. Derek Murphy.
I do want to, this is not about me, you know, we have plenty of dads who are scheduled to be here, but they're out of town, they have work, and send me text messages, we can't be here, Derek, but sign us up next year. And these gentlemen are dad leads. Dennis is at Green Valley. Larry was at South Shades Mountain. I think he went between Shades Mountain and Green Valley. So these great guys get up at, 6:45 in the morning and not get paid. So, so I really appreciate them. And thank y'all so much for allowing us to serve.
Thank you, Derek.
Mr. Kent Haynes would come to the front with his principal, Mr. Brian Kane, or not, maybe. Mr. Kent Haynes teaches math at Simmons Middle School. He wants to change the way middle schoolers think about mathematics by saying, quote, "I'd like students to solve equations more creatively and to help them move beyond, quote, memorized rules in math practice." For that ambition and more, Mr. Haynes is now part of the exclusive cohort known as the Heinemann Fellows. He is one of 11 teachers in the U.S. as part of the 2016-2018 cohort. And this cohort will engage in individual research projects that address challenges faced by schools across the country. So congratulations, Mr. Haynes. Joel Sullivan, senior, Hoover High School, if you'll come forward. You may see we've got some pictures on the screen as well. The 90th Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade will be broadcast live from New York City on NBC the morning of Thanksgiving, which this year is November 24th. And if you're counting, that's just a little more than 2 months away. 72 days to be exact to Thanksgiving. Marching in that parade as part of Macy's Great American Parade Band, Joel Sullivan, standing right here. Mr. Sullivan is a senior at Hoover High School, and he is the drumline section leader under the direction of band director Ryan Fitzpatrick and his most immediate supervisor, Mr. Fondren. Mr. Fondren, if you'll stand for us in the audience. So we want to congratulate Joel as he prepares to show off his percussionist skills before an estimated 50 million viewers on TV. Congratulations. And finally tonight, Green Valley Elementary and Rocky Ridge Elementary Schools, if representatives from those campuses will come forward. The principals and administrators are certainly elated to announce that their schools, Green Valley and Rocky Ridge, are among just 11 schools in Alabama and just 544 nationally in a new national ranking. This ranking by the Let's Move Active Schools is a division of First Lady Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign. To earn the Let's Move Active Schools National Award, a school must have met significant benchmarks in 5 areas of campus culture, ranging from physical education to family and community engagement. So congratulations, Rocky Ridge and Green Valley. Thank you, board. And now we have a presentation, special presentation as an adjunct to the recognitions by our high schools. And I believe we have Principal Don Hewlin and some of his assistants here with us tonight.
We have something to celebrate tonight. We had 10 students at Hoover High School complete their graduation requirements during the summer. And that's a tremendous accomplishment for those kids and for the families that just persevered, did those things that needed to happen. A lot of circumstances for these. Some of those kids came in, lacking credits from other schools and just a variety of different hardships. But they all persevered. They all made that commitment to having a life-changing accomplishment, and they were able to do that and meet the graduation requirements this summer. So we're going to announce the names of every one of those here. I think we have some more coming, but they're stuck in traffic and everything else. It's very hard. So I'm glad we got one, but we're going to celebrate with all of them in just a second. But again, they're going to graduate from Hoover High School tonight and forever be part of the Buck Nation, so we're very, very proud of it. Carrie?
At this time, I would like to congratulate Maurice Dominic Johnson Jr. on his graduation from Hoover High School. While Maurice is accepting commendation, I would like to call out the names of our other summer graduates who completed their diplomas in the summer. Lene Fairfax, Mohammed Hafez Cedar, Alexandria Kane, John Cundiff, Amir Basham Johnson, Cavante Lane, Aaron Lawler, Juan Sanchez Saltos, and Denarius Williams. They could not attend tonight, but they are our summer graduates. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Always exciting to recognize our teachers and our students. I told Maurice to feel free to throw his hat. Maybe he wanted to keep it, so somebody might have kept it and not given it back to him. Now we have our time in our meeting for our public participation. If you have a comment, would you please come to the desk up front and state your name and hold your comments to 2 minutes if you can, please. Thank you.
Arnold Singer, 613 Riverhaven Place. I didn't expect to be here tonight. I expected to be at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. I found out what I needed to find out at the work session, and I'm here to share it with you, and it's good news. The 108 acres that's being added at Blackridge is medium density. The Blackridge project includes 362 medium density homes. Any medium density homes that will be built on this 108 acres will take away from the 362, so there will be no increase in the total number of units produced by Blackridge. So it will be 1,150, but 108 acres taken up. Approximately 60 acres of that 108 acres is for recreation and a boat launch and canoe launch on the Cahaba River. So it's going to be quite interesting. It's outside the gate, so it's not a gated portion, but it is part of Blackridge. And the key thing, no additional dwelling units to be constructed.
On the original zoning request that was approved for the original,
In the 1980s?
well, the one that's originally approved from the original current development.
Oh.
Did you ever ask them how much of that property was wetlands that couldn't be built on to begin with?
Well, evidently the wetlands is where they're putting the 100-acre lake.
Or
And there, of course there's wetlands there. There's absolutely no question, considering the topography that's there, the Cahaba River running along the border of the property, etc. So.
the reason I was asking, I mean, the original zoning was for X number of lots, that were irrespective of any kind of wetlands or anything. So at the end of the day, when you pull out the wetlands, you don't get quite as many lots. So, not that I'm saying it's a shell game, it'd be interesting to understand those a little more thoroughly. Because anytime, in my opinion, we add a lot of additional property to this city, it's going to complicate matters further because we don't have a line for the school district. Did you inquire about the 40 townhome development in Crossbridge?
I was there for that. They have agreed as part of their condition that there will be no more multi-family dwellings that will be constructed in Rossbridge.
Wasn't that zone commercial originally?
It was also zoned for a lot more units. There's actually a couple of different parts to the Rossbridge. One is over off Rossbridge Parkway, part of which is going to be a park and part is going to be the townhomes. The key thing that I was looking at was 108 acres could have been a lot of damage, and before I knew the detail, I had suggested at the last council meeting that it be considered for an adult 55 and over community, which would be a win for the developer, it would be a win for the Board of Education, it would be a win for the people, and it would be a win for the seniors. But that's not the case at this point.
Yeah, so really there's no existing zoning for that 108 acres. It's now.
It is now changed to the medium density PR1.
Which to me is not great news. That's the next story.
There is no net increase in the number of dwelling units.
Look under the show.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Singer. Any other public participation tonight? All right, we'll move on to our action items. Minutes from our regular board meeting of August 8th, 2016. Dr. Murphy?
Board members, I'd like to recommend your approval of the minutes from the regular board meeting August 8th, 2016.
Have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendations for the approval of these minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions from the board? Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Next item on our agenda is personnel actions. Dr. Murphy?
Board members, I'd like to ask that you approve the personnel report. It reflects 45 positions being filled, 6 transfers, 7 change of status, 13 leave of absence, 21 resignations, 1 termination, 1 bus driver that we're asking for your approval for insurance purposes.
Dr. Murphy, do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendations of the approval of the personnel actions? Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions from the board? I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Personnel report is approved.
Board members, if I could just point out to you that we've lost an employee, and that is also reflected in your personnel report. Would encourage you to continue to pray for Kelly Cash's family.
Next item is our business actions. Dr. Murphy?
Yes, board members, I would like to ask your approval of our monthly financial statement ending July 2016. Also our payroll, July 2016, payroll was $7,049,830, and our cash disbursement for August of 2016, $3,037,131. I would like to also make you aware that year-to-date 2016 general fund expenditures compared to 2015 is $2.8 million less expenditure. But would like to recommend your approval of our monthly financial, payroll, and cash disbursements.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation of the approval of the business action items?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from our public? Seeing we have no questions, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Business action items are approved. Sick leave bank committee, Dr. Murphy?
Board members, per our board policy, every year we should have a representative from our board appointed to the sick bank committee, sick leave bank committee. That's policy 5.12. And so, reading from that, the school level bank committee will be composed of 1 member representing the board and 4 members representing participating members of the bank. The member representing the board will be appointed by the superintendent subject to the board's approval. Board members, I'd like to recommend Steve Marshall represent the board on the sick leave bank committee. Steve Marshall.
Who is Steve?
Steve is our payroll officer. Steve, I think you're in the audience with us.
Back here.
In the back.
Oh, I didn't know you. Good to meet you.
He's very important to us.
Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation, the approval for the sick leave bank committee representative?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? No questions. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The sick leave bank committee representative is approved. Temporary construction easement for the city of Hoover. Dr. Murphy?
Board members, at our last meeting, we had Mr. Tim Westhoven share with us a request for a construction easement on our property based on the work that's being done at the Sportsplex. Mr. Westhoven is with us again this evening, should you have any additional questions. We also have the maps if we need to pull those back out. If you will look in front of you, there is a large map at your place, and I simply have that for you, because as we talked to Mr. Westhoven, we talked about the landscaping of that and reforesting of that area. We've been out to take a look at exactly that area. I did talk to Mr. Westhoven today about the possibility of some additional fencing, and I think that's certainly on the table, Mr. Westhoven, for us to continue that conversation. But you will see there are 3 areas for which a construction easement has been requested, and you'll also see the types of trees that will be reforested, the number of those trees also being noted for you. Board members, it's my recommendation that you approve the construction easement to the city of Hoover.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation of the approval of the temporary construction easement? Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Having no questions, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The temporary construction easement is approved. Recapping of tires, Dr. Murphy?
Bid 2017-2 is for a recapping of tires. I would like to ask board members that you reject these bids. One was a no bid response and 2 other bids were received, but they both had deviations from our specifications. So at this time, I'd like to ask you to reject bid number 2017-2, recapping of tires.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to reject bid number 2017-2 for recapping of tires?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions from the board?
Does that affect our tire inventory or any transportation issues going forward?
No, sir, it does not. We've actually, our buses are in great shape. We've had to buy new tires at the end of the summer. They didn't get us by this year. A new tire is actually about $350 a piece. I think the recap bid, the lowest one that came in was around $91 a piece. So it was just some cost savings that we was looking to save.
Life expectancy on both?
Well, and I got with Jim Moore, our shop foreman, after the last board meeting and asked him. He said we have some buses that have to turn a lot in the cul-de-sacs. We can get, 5,000 or 6,000 miles out of the tire. We've got some buses that maybe the area where they run, they don't have to do as much turning around in the cul-de-sac, and the tires will rot off of them before they'll wear out. So it's, there's not really a way to average out.
Yeah.
I was hoping to get you a number for average miles on the tire, but
I'm just curious. That's what I like.
But those savings it will save us considerably if we can get the tires.
I know in the past recaps have gotten a bad rap. Any concerns about safety running recaps rather than new tires?
No, sir, we did not have any concerns with safety. The process they're using now is very safe, and it's approved through the state, and it's very, very heavily regulated.
They go only on the rear tires, right?
Yes, sir, only on the rear tires. The front tires have to be new tires.
Any questions or comments from the public? Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The rejection of bid number 2017-2 for recapping of tires is approved. Type D transit bus, Dr. Murphy?
Bid number 2017-1, Type D Transit Bus. This is a special services bus. I'm recommending for your consideration that the board accept the sole qualifying bid. There were 2 responses that were received, with 1 bid being a no bid. So we have 1 qualifying bid, and I recommend to the board that we accept the bid.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation of approval of bid number 2017-1 Type D transit bus?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions from the board?
Mr. President, I'm just curious why we don't get more bids. It's not just here, but it's others. I mean, I understand there's a deadline and they're on the list. We go solicit other vendors.
Yes, we actually sent out to Transportation South, to Bluebird. Ward Bus Company is in Mobile County, and they're so busy they're not interested in anything outside of Mobile. I talked to a international representative last week in Tuscaloosa. They do not manufacture a Type D transit bus, so they're interested in our C-class buses, but they do not manufacture a transit bus, Type D.
And I understand you help with the sale of the surplus, not the words, but our buses we're taking out of commission, you help negotiate this bus to get a better price on our bus that we're letting go, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Thank you.
And I guess this bus, we don't have any alternative on this bus. We have to have this bus.
We do have an alternative with the Type C, but you lose the space for the wheelchairs. The Type D allows you to haul more wheelchairs in the bus and the turning radius. A lot of times with our special ed buses, we have to get in tight places that we would not have to go with the regular bus. So the Type D is the best way to go.
Questions or comments from the public? Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Bid number 2017-1, Type D transit bus is approved. Proposed fiscal year 2017 budget, Dr. Murphy.
Board members, I'm going to ask you this evening to approve three parts. One is I'll make a recommendation for the approval of our salary schedule for fiscal year 17. I'll also then ask for your approval of our supplements for fiscal year 2017. And then lastly, ask for your approval of our budget for 2017. There were a number of questions that were generated during our last conversation about discretionary funds, and I would like to send down to each of you a document which perhaps will support that conversation should there be a need for further discussion. I will just remind the board as those are coming down to you that discretionary funds are monies that's taken from Hoover City Schools general funds that are given to our principals to support the various needs that might arise during the school year. The money has, over the course of time, been used in various ways. Some of the more common uses of the discretionary principals money is paying for substitutes, in some cases paying for furniture, supporting professional development, assisting academic teams, assisting clubs, organizations, and supporting athletics and fine arts. There doesn't seem to be any sort of consistent approach to the way we've determined the amount of money to be given to a school from year to year, but there seems to be an average, at least for our high schools, of around $85 per student. The principal discretionary funds money is given in addition, and that's important, that's given in addition to our state allocation. State allocations come to us to support our instructional supplies, support technology, textbooks, and also library enhancement. I would remind you that principal discretionary funds are public funds, which obviously means that that money can be used only in ways to support our schools that allow us to be in compliance with the guidelines for use of public funds. Based on our research, Tina and I, her department, spent a great deal of time looking at discretionary funds. There appears to be two purposes for discretionary funds. One is to supplement the state allocation to each school, thus allowing our principals to have some additional money to support their schools and their programs, again, at the discretion of the principal. And secondly, to give financial support to our schools to help us create a reserve of money that might be relied upon when we have more physically lean years. I've provided you additionally 2013-14 discretionary funds to our schools. That particular to the far right of the paper gives you the actual amount of money. We have not been able to call between what was state and what was discretionary, but certainly are willing to continue to do that for your review. 2014-2015, we allow you to see the check that was written to each school, how much of that was state funds, how much was discretionary, and thus how much of that money was per student. You see that in the far right column of each of those categories. 2015-16, you also have that same breakout, the total amount of money that was sent to the school, the amount that was from the state allocation, the amount that was discretionary to the principal, and you see that per pupil expenditure. And I'd be happy to stop and have conversation or respond to any comments you might have. On page 3, You also see the funds that are available at the principal's discretion. And so if you look at the bottom of each of those categories, you'll see a total amount of money that is at the discretion of each of our principals. You have principal discretionary balances. You have principal reserve. This category is an amount of money that over the last 8 years of accumulating discretionary money, our principals have saved some of that, and it's gone into a reserve. In some cases, there are donations that come to schools. In other cases, there are commissions that come to our schools. But you see those by school, the fund available at the principal's discretion. This does not include any money that is club, organizational money, athletic monies. This is simply money that's in the hands of the principal to choose to spend as he or she would choose to do so based on state law for use of public funds. Then you also have the last sheet, sheet 4, which provides you some information about some of the investments that some of our schools have and the amount of interest that's been earned on some of those accounts and the ending balance for some of those, or for those accounts. I would also share with you that that does not reflect the amount of monies that some of our schools have that they have invested in CDs and the interest that they're accumulating from those CDs. So again, I share this with you to allow you an opportunity to see what the discretionary amounts look like, the kinds of monies that are in our schools, and the ways that they might use some of these resources to meet the void or meet the gap that exists from what they've gotten in the past from us as discretionary monies and where we currently are. I am pleased that many of our principals have been somewhat conservative, if you will, in having some reserve monies that can be used to help offset us as we have looked at making some significant cuts in the monies that go to our principals for discretionary monies. I'll step back to CDs for just a minute. We have some of our schools, $48,000 in CDs, $10,900 in CDs, so we have some schools that have some resources in CDs. But I'm very comfortable at this point to say to you that we're going to obviously support our schools, meet our needs. Nobody's talking about leaving folks upside down. As you know, board members, we have the opportunity to amend our budget twice. The first opportunity is really about making sure where we are at the end of September 30th, and it takes a while to get all those bills in and finalize that. Gives us an opportunity to amend. That's generally sometimes January, early February that first amendment might occur. And a second amendment by law is required to take place. I believe June 15th is the date by law that we have to submit any second amendment. I say all that to say to you that there are opportunities for us to come back to this budget, assuming some things that might be in place, one assumption being the sale of Bowberry property. So there may be opportunities for us then, or there would be a necessity for us to take that money and to come back and have some amendment of our budget based on that revenue stream. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
I have a question. Marie, I see Hoover High School, that is a large amount. Is that available right now to the district?
Would you refer to
from Hoover High School, the page 4? It's 3% to scholarship.
Still not on page 4. I have more pages than y'all have. Here we are.
Seeing the ending balance.
You're making reference to Hoover High School and the amount of money?
Yes, ma'am.
This money has liquidity. The money is in a central office account here. Mr. Hewlin and I had some opportunity to have conversation today. For full transparency, he was not aware of this amount of money in this account, but clearly acknowledges that this money can substantially support Hoover High School in meeting some of its needs as we have pulled back our discretionary monies.
On the Spain part, the PTO, it says non-public, is that accessible Mr. D?
That particular money is PTO money, and that is at the discretion of the PTO. But again, when we look at our accounts, there are other monies in a cash balance that's available to our principal at Spain Park High School, where he also would have opportunity to meet some of the needs that he might not be able to now meet based on discretionary monies being called back.
Ms. Beach, that would be on page 3 of the handout that you have. We'll look at Spain Park's number there. Any other questions from the board?
I think one of the concerns that always I hear bubbling up from time to time is professional development. And the question I guess for Ron and yourself is where does that stop? I mean, at what point does the district fund professional development, or do we rely on the principals and discretionary fund to take care of professional development? Is there any criteria or policy for that, number one? Number two, then it gets down to the personal question of how much stipend will I get, travel and expenses, and even when you go to summer training. We've asked teachers to come in and do incredible summer training for really nothing. And so it's great to have discretionary money, but it needs to have some kind of direction, I think, and some kind of boundary as to who pays for what and when. And at the end of the day, the loose end of it all is personal people that are using professional development, whether it be a college boat trip or whether it be the teachers coming in on their own time in the summertime to take on additional training.
Right. And Ron does have money through his department for professional development. Obviously, if the professional development falls within federal funds, there's money built in for professional development through federal funds. There are opportunities for us to provide some additional support for professional development should we need to through possibly other current expense money, OCE money. But yes, there are many things our principals want us to, or want their teachers to be a part of, and they've all been very willing to dip into their discretionary monies to support that.
I mean, philosophically, and if you look at Don, or any school, turnover, for example, you put a lot of new teachers in, professional development has been a very critical thing in terms of assimilating them into the culture of the school and the district. Again, whose responsibility is it to do that? I guess it's an operational thing. I'm not suggesting one thing or the other, but that's always been a concern I've heard is who pays for what. And if we're asking teachers, particularly during the summertime or on time, to do things and not pay them or compensate them accordingly, there's that question, because you can't go out and buy food for them. Another problem.
One thing that has helped the last couple of years is our calendar, having the flex PD days built into the calendar has made it more attractive for teachers to attend during the summer, because it allows them to have some time off around Thanksgiving, President's Day, that area. So as long as, if we can continue to have that kind of flexibility in our calendar, it does help. So that they're not coming in for nothing. They are coming in. It is substitute work time for them, and it's very important in those weeks right before school starts, not just for the new teachers, but for the teachers that we have in place. As our curriculum changes, expectations go up, that we have that training available every summer.
This is kind of a bizarre thing, and I'm probably stepping out of the way too far. Talking about public funds, and when I look at this list here, the first student allocation for discretionary funds was 16. The lowest school on a first student basis is Trace Crossing, and yet perhaps some of the greatest needs to assist students and teachers within that school exist at that school. Yeah, it goes back to the philosophical question of how you go out and use discretionary money.
Well, and in great measure, it's why I've placed on the table a proposal to get that to be something that's consistent, so that you don't have this disparate amount of money, and that we define that. And if we find that, hey, our high schools need more, our elementary folks will disagree with this, but should we have conversations where There's a set amount at the elementary and a set amount at the middle and a set amount at the high school. But right now, for generating this conversation and the best we could bring to you for this budget was to make that consistent across the board. So that the needs of a child, whether it's an elementary child or a secondary child, is being consistently supported by this board.
Well, I appreciate you looking into it. I mean, it's been kind of willy-nilly, I think, for years. And the discretionary allocation's been discretionary, it seems like. So, thank you for looking into it.
And I'd like to say one thing on professional development, just to let you know, maybe you don't know, that most of our PTOs, I can't say 100%, but I bet it's pretty close, all give money towards professional development. So it's nice to know that.
I think between PTO support, what's built into our curriculum budget and our federal budgets, what discretionary monies our principals have, and any conversations we need to have at this level for any additional support, we will clearly support our teachers' professional development, clearly.
Question, last Thursday, we weren't sure the discretionary amount, on those debate of last year per student, 125 to 85.
Yes.
Will be clear.
Well, if you look at the sheet, page 2 that we have in front of us, the discretionary monies for last year, 2015-16, had quite a range per student. And so there was significant, I think as Mr. Cooper just said, there was significant discretion happening at this level in terms of what went out to principals for their discretion.
We haven't, at this level, determined what that calculation or how we dispersed the money last year.
What we've calculated is that there is a range from $17.25 up to $86.65 per child at various schools.
We can't assess fees on elementary school children. Is that right, state law? Right.
What you'll see in giving a $25 flat fee for all students is that some of our schools are going to get more money because they were getting less than $25 last year. So some of your elementary schools, in this case, 1 or 2 or so of them will do better under this strategy.
Another question's just been asked to me, and I know it was, what is the amount of our reserve, the actual amount today? Tina, it's been asked. So, we have it on.
Our total ending fund balance as of July with reconciled bank statements is $103,127,936.33.
How much did that service jump up in 18, 3 million?
Yes,
Roughly.
I believe.
In 28, it jumps up to.
I think so. I can't remember. I didn't bring that with me.
That's why the forward-looking approach to this is important.
And I think you keep several things in perspective. Mr. Cooper, certainly what you're suggesting, which is a significant increase of debt services in the very near future. The conversations that many of us are having, and we're having with our principals about capital outlay needs. I could probably cite multi-million-dollar projects for you right now that needs our time and attention. And the fact that, on any given month, you all are acknowledging that it costs $11 to $13 million per month to operate the school district. So again, as I've said on multiple occasions, when you talk about an amount of money, 90 million, 103 million, it sounds so huge and so significant until you put it in perspective to the cost of the school district monthly, when you give consideration to the projects that have gone undone that need our attention soon, and the fact that debt service is getting ready to slap us sideways,
And not that we're earning anything off that money.
and you're not earning much at all on interest.
Mr. President, I have a question. Ms. Hancock, we talked about this briefly the other night, the return on our cash reserves, it doesn't seem to be even minimal. Is there a reason it can't get started? Is it because it's all earmarked in special funds by law, or?
No, what's in our general fund is, in the bank account, that is not necessarily, of course, the state funds are earmarked, and you do have to spend those, but what's in our general fund balance is not earmarked. And as you and I spoke, I talked with our bank, looking at some things that would be liquid to see if we couldn't, and that's a possibility moving forward that we said we'd discuss after the end of the year, after we close out the year and so forth, that I'm gonna talk with the bank to see what they may offer. That was another thing you and I had discussed was, a lot of banks did not want our money because of the amount of it, and they sure don't want to invest it. But again, we would also need to look at, how liquid those possibilities would be and what we could. So that is a possibility moving forward of what we could do with that.
I found it real interesting that I called a couple of bankers' officers in large banks and just asked why they were competing for the funds we have that we could invest in. Exactly what you said, they don't necessarily want it. It's a lot of money, and I think it's kind of like the Federal Reserve's rule, which is different, that you can only invest money at a certain level depending on how much it's tied to. So it amazed me, because I was expecting to be falling over each other. It's not true, so thank you.
Any questions from the board? Murphy, if I understood you correctly, this is there are three parts to this budget that we will need to approve separately.
My first recommendation to you, board, is the approval of our 2016-17 salary schedule. You have a copy of that in your notebook that we shared with you. Hoover City Board of Education salary schedule 16-17. Board members, I'd like to recommend your approval of the salary schedule for this academic year.
I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for the approval of the proposed salary schedule for fiscal year 2017.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any additional questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Having none, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The salary schedule for fiscal year 2017 has been approved. Dr. Murphy?
Board members, I recommend that you approve the 2017 athletic, non-athletic supplements. And I have a copy of that for you. If you do not have it, it was in our notebooks. Excuse me, I have a shuffle of papers here. Do you all need a copy of that? Oh, here it is, right here, excuse me. Let me just send down to each of you a copy. This is the athletic, non-athletic supplements. You did have a copy of this in your packet of materials that we had shared with you on last Thursday evening, but just in the event. I do recommend your approval of the supplements for FY 2017.
I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendations of the approval of athletic and non-athletic supplements for fiscal year 2017.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Any questions from the board?
I noticed probably didn't have time to change the percentages.
No, we did not, but clearly, over the course of this academic year, we need to pull our principals, our athletic folks to the table and have conversations about our supplements. I would very much like to go away from a percentage of a salary to here's that job and here's the supplement set aside for that. So we did not, Mr. Cooper, just didn't have time to take it away from the percentage.
When you transition or not transition, it would be a very interesting thing to see who says, well, this is not worth my time. Or somebody says, well, it is worth my time now, because I'm perhaps in a lower paid employee. So it will be a very interesting discussion and a transition.
Absolutely. it'll be a whole different way to look at supplements, both athletic and non-athletic.
Mr. President, Ms. Speak. Ms. Veal, early on, I came by your office and tried to understand the supplements. And you were trying to be helpful. It took all of about 3 minutes, and I went home, and about 3 hours later, cannot understand. We appreciate the supplements, we appreciate what athletics and non-athletics do, so this is not questioning that, it's just trying to understand, which I'm sure all of you feel the same.
Well, two charges I think we've had in front of us. One is to unravel what seems to be some complexities with our salary schedule. And so hopefully what you've seen in your review is that we tried to define for you what each of those categories are. And the other is for us to take on the task now of unraveling the complexities, or at least I guess it's not a complexity so much as just getting those percentages to just be a set amount for our service that's performed.
Just like discretionary funds, like it's taking on.
Well, some terrific folks have been at the table, our entire staff and particularly finance.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Did anything change in the supplement schedule from last year to this year at all?
It did not. We have kept that consistent with the percentage of salary, but assure you it's the top of the to-do list as we're moving forward.
Is it the base salary based upon the old salary schedule or the new salary schedule?
The old salary schedule. It did not include the 2%, 4% pay increase.
Any questions from the public? Having none, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The proposed athletic, non-athletic supplement for fiscal year 2017 is approved. Dr. Murphy?
Board members, I'd like to request your approval of the 2017 annual budget for our school district.
I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation of the approval of the proposed fiscal year 2017 annual budget. I have a motion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions from the board?
Mr. President, I speak. Dr. Murphy, I think you explained we have an opportunity to adjust this from a projected to an actual 2 times and then the final July 1. Is that what you explained?
Yes, once you approve this tonight, it'll be obviously our approved budget with 2 opportunities to make amendments. And clearly, every opportunity we have to amend, there's always some tweaking to the budgets. And so, again, I think that's important to emphasize. There are 2 opportunities to amend this budget.
Additional questions from the board? Questions from the public? Having none, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Budget for fiscal year 2017 is approved.
Can I ask a question? President?
Yes, sir.
The speech, why did you oppose? I mean, there's something, I'd just like to understand.
Mr. Cooper, well, there's several reasons. There's one I really wouldn't like
Please speak up.
to say. I said there's several reasons. There's one that I do not want to say unless I guess I need to talk to council and see if we need to go into executive session as to that reason.
Well, let me say, the only reason I'm asking is, if it's
can-
not in the best interest of all students, I was just curious as to why that's not the case. Not that it's right or wrong, just curious.
No, well, you're asking me questions that go into my mental thought and process, and that's gonna take a while, and, some of that goes to where I think I need to talk to my attorney and to go to an executive session for what I said. Now, I do think that we're having a huge reserve. My understanding is from the principals is that the ones I've talked to do not know details. There was this general email that went out. Some of them had no idea that this was going to happen. I'm concerned on that on short notice.
May I address that? Mr.
Sure,
Speaker?
I personally didn't want to go here.
So let me be very clear that from June of 2015, when I walked into the school district, and took a look at where we are financially as a school district, I have touted this conversation from day one. Now, if procedurally there's a concern that after multiple conversations and principal meetings that, hey, we're at a challenging point financially, I think I've said on many occasions, money doesn't flow like milk and honey. We have challenges. We need to be frugal. We need to address those. Multiple conversations and principal meetings have been some shape, form, or fashion, something said about money. Now, if procedurally there was an expectation for me to say something prior to 2 weeks ago in an email that was more definitive than, hey, it looks like it could be nothing or it's going to be significantly cut, then, you know, I guess we could disagree with the length of time. But I can't believe that there is a single principal who's shocked and dismayed and surprised that we find ourselves at this point in time, that there have been conversations. So I will say to you that no principal has been to me to say that this budget has flipped them upside down. So again, I reached out to principals in an afternoon, late afternoon, and I'll acknowledge late afternoon to say, hey, here's some things that I'd like to share with the board about discretionary monies. And you know, again, we have a principals meeting tomorrow, and I invite them to beat me up if I got it wrong. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think anybody's shocked and dismayed for us to find ourselves at this table. Clearly, one of the challenges I had when I came into the school district from this board is please take a thorough and careful review and research where we are financially. I will say again, it's been very, very difficult for me to send money, large amounts of money out to our school at the same time I'm marching forward to the board saying, will you approve this huge deficit budget? I will tell you that there's some things philosophically that's different in our school district here than some of my former experiences. For example, and Mr. Hewlin, I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, but as we had a very productive conversation today, some of the things that I would have considered to be a part of maintenance, some of our schools have picked that up with some of their discretionary money. Some of the things that I would have considered to be expectations on the school district using other current expense money has been picked up by our schools. And tomorrow I look forward to sharing with our principals in a conversation that we've set $1.5 million aside in our budget of OCE money to support or of our money. I'm not sure it was all OCE, but we've set aside $1.5 million to support substitutes. So for many of our principals who've been paying for their own substitutes, we've set something aside to support you in this budget. For you who are principals who bought some furniture and some other things, maybe we need to look at some of our capital outlay monies and or some of our operational money. So this isn't that we've crafted a budget to hold all the money close to our vest. The money in this budget is designed to support our principals and their needs. We should be paying for some of those substitutes. And I'm not going to say all of them. It depends on why those substitutes were selected. We clearly should be buying your desk, table, and chairs. Now, perhaps not the state of the art, and if you wanted to throw into that pot and help us get something, you know, more significant, then we'll obviously engage that. But please understand, we've not designed a budget where we've not tried to be extremely thoughtful to our administrators. I have the greatest respect for our principals. I've learned so much from them. I'm looking forward to talking to them in the morning, and I'm just not hearing some of the battering and the beating about this particular budget that I've proposed.
Going back, was asked the why question, and I think our lawyer will tell you never asked the why question, and believe the delay, because it goes to mental thought process, and it'll take about 2 hours, more than that, Mr. Cooper. Believe the delay, and I hear what Dr. Murphy says, but the delay in letting the specifics known as far as the per student amount doesn't allow time for let's say alternative alternative ways to get the money, such as writing grants. Grants are usually done right now, getting ready to go out to whoever they need to apply those grants to, and be dispersed.
May I just say too,
And I didn't want to go down here, Dr. Murphy.
I want to just acknowledge Tina Hancock, who's been in our school district now for 2 months, and how difficult, since June, and how complex this process has been and how much time and energy it has required. And so very honestly, to that point, as soon as we knew what that amount was, is when I advised our board that, or I advised our principals that it wasn't looking good. So based on the timing, new CSFO, maybe it sounds like excuses. I apologize to our principals if I failed to be timely with that.
Ms. Hancock, I thought you'd done a marvelous job with it, very impressive. Thank you. Going back, where's Chelsea? So I'm driving the road. There's a substantial one I don't want to say without talking to the lawyer.
Let me just table my question. I'm good.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Ms. Beach, Dr. Murphy will now give us a new business and superintendent's report and information.
Thank you, board members. I would like to bring your attention to the School Fiscal Accountability Act and just ask that you take note of the School Fiscal Accountability Act. It's Act 2006-196. I would like to acknowledge the work, secondly, of Dr. Tara Simmons, who's been working diligently on our policy manual. Dr. Simmons, I don't want to put you on the spot, but should you want to address this in any way, please feel free to do so. Board members, what you have in a larger packet at your desk are the proposed policy revisions, the revisions that are the result of our policy pipeline. And so we just want you to see current policies and what those proposed revised policies are. And you have that in just a chart form at the front of the document. And then you have the policy manual. And you'll see the strike-throughs where the appropriate strike-through should be, and insertion of the appropriate language also in that adjacent area. We give this not for your approval this evening. We certainly know that you'll want to have time to review this. If we are ready, then we'll ask next board meeting if you're prepared to approve this. Otherwise, we'll give you the time, obviously, that you need to be thorough in your read. What you have here is nothing more than the policy pipeline legislative updates from Alabama Association of School Boards. There's no new wrinkles or conversations, just from the legislative policy updates. So that's for your review and information. And then I'd like to ask if Brian Phillips would share with us, when we go through school compliance or district compliance monitoring, there's an expectation the state has for us that we have talked about Children's Internet Protection Act and our compliance with that. And so Brian Phillips, it's yours.
So the act was actually passed by Congress in the year 2000. I won't bore you with details. The big parts are that yearly we have to discuss this either publicly or post on the doors or to our website or things along those lines. So the big points are we have to put a policy in place to make sure our kids are safe on the internet. I can tell you that our filters, we have 3 in place, 2 of which work while the kids are at home, so their devices are filtered. They are safely and securely monitored while in electronic mail, chat rooms, or other form of direct communications. They are also watched for unauthorized access or hacking of school material, and that we restrict all minors' access to anything that is harmful to them. And I can tell you that both our data governance policy and our student acceptable use agreement both monitor those. Questions? And I have a FCC flyer if you need help sleeping tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Any other informational reports?
Yes.
Our next regular scheduled board meeting is listed as October 17th. That is the third Monday, which is also a city council meeting. So we're making a change for that board meeting. Will be Tuesday night, October the 11th, at 5:30 here in the central office. You can. Dr. Murphy has one other acknowledgement to make, please.
Do we have any of our individuals who've just been employed by way of our personnel report present? I know we have Claire Jones Moore. Claire, would you stand? Claire has just been employed as our Special Services Director. Claire, I'm going to flip back for just a minute and share just a couple of quick things. Right now, Claire is currently the Interim Assistant Superintendent of Federal Programs in Elementary Education in Elmore County. She has also been Coordinator of Teaching and Learning in the school district there. She served as a principal at 2 different schools. She's been a special education specialist and a gifted education coordinator. She's been district level supervisor and coordinator. She's taught enrichment. In addition to that, has been an elementary teacher. Claire, we're delighted to have you come join our family, and you join us by unanimous approval from our committee who interviewed, and I appreciate the board's approval of you this evening. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, and thank you, board, and I look forward to serving the students here in Hoover.
Thank you so much, Claire.
Thank you for being here and welcome to Hoover.
Thank you.
If there's no other business, we are adjourned.